great news. TYT is partnering with participant media to help solve the climate crisis, but we need your guys' help. Make sure you check out our series, 10 Days of Action, to learn more about what you can do to make a difference. And also go see an Inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power. It's in theaters nationwide right now. It has a really important message, and I want all of you guys to learn that and absorb it. It's very important. And look, if President Trump isn't gonna lead, then we should. And I believe in the American people, and I think we can do it. Already, the majority of Americans are on our side, and so are civic leaders, mayors, governors, and businesses, and they're all moving forward to stop climate change. So don't worry, guys, no single person can stop us. If we fight together, we can win. So I pledge to join the movement and hashtag #BeInconvenient. Go to inconvenientsequel.com/action to be part of the solution.
You may have heard the story about the girlfriend who convinced her boyfriend to kill himself. Her name is Michelle Carter, his name was Conrad Roy. She was found guilty earlier this year of, I think it was like wanton reckless behavior, encouraging her boyfriend to kill himself. And she was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. The story as it went down was, you heard a lot of kind of gory details really along the way about how he stepped out of the suicide in progress, contacted her and said he was scared, and she told him to go back in there. Along the way, there were texts back and forth telling him when to do it, how to do it, really being the mastermind of the whole thing. So the sentencing came back as 2.5 years, and the sentence was far lighter, according to some reporting, than what prosecutors had hoped for. During Thursday's hearing, they asked Moniz, the judge, to sentence Carter to 7 to 12 years in prison. Carter's defense requested that she receive no jail time and 5 years supervised probation under various conditions, including mental health counseling, because she herself had exhibited behavior consistent with mental illness in addition to eating disorders. The judge explained the ruling. Moniz said that he did not find Carter's age, her level of maturity, or mental illness to have, quote, any significant impact on her actions. However, he added that her age, quote, offers a greater chance of rehabilitation. So they wanted 12 years, they got 2.5. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm fine with the sentence. I think that her mental health condition should be taken into account with the sentencing, even though the judge said that that wasn't taken into consideration. What she did was horrible, and I did feel like she needed to face some consequences. However, at the end of the day, the person who decides to take his or her life is the person responsible for taking his or her life. Those text messages were really hard to read, and you're right. She had an opportunity to save his life, and instead of doing so, she encouraged him to go back into that car and die. And that, it's really hard to accept that there are people out there that would do that, but there are. And again, I think that there should be punishment. I think that 7 years, 15 years, that's a little too long. I do think there's an opportunity for rehabilitation, and I hope that she does have some rehabilitation or experience some rehabilitation.
I think you and I covered this story together before, and I would say that I agree with that. But I want to say something, because the face of terror is changing. There's the cheerleader the young girl who just killed her baby, and then the sorority girl who killed her baby, and I know people get mad at me because I bring up race a lot, but I just think it's important that this mean girl thing that has just been, it's such a big thing in our country with bullying and this whole mean girl thing. It's good to see someone face consequences for doing mean, heinous stuff. And it's not, we see young black faces all the time for all the horrific things that they do. This is terroristic behavior as well. And so with her, I had an eating disorder, and I never thought about making somebody want to kill themselves. So her attorney kept mentioning the eating disorder, and I'm like, yeah, that means she hates herself, and I get it, and maybe she throws up or she vomits or whatever it is. I do think what she did was awful. I don't think that she should go to prison for 7 years, but it's good to see consequences, and I love the Young Turks for covering these stories, because I saw a lot of sympathy for her. And that really concerns me, because it's this little skinny young white girl that is like, oh my God, you're gonna send her to prison with all of their like real scary people. She's a scary person. What she did was horrible. Like, I would rather her hit me with a car than to talk me into my own suicide.
Yeah,
like,
right?
It was just so freaking mean. And then to use that later to brag about it, which was really, so I don't think she should go to jail forever.
Yeah, I mean that's, she didn't brag about convincing him to commit suicide, but she did, you know, after he died, you know, she made a big deal about it and got the community together to, like, I think raise money for his funeral, and you know, played it off as if she was like the hero in the situation.
Right,
and then the investigation turned up evidence indicating that she actually encouraged him to go through with the suicide. Yeah, that was, the story is just so horrendous. It's hard to even comment on it because it's so horrendous.
The framing that I understand that justifies her going to jail is like if this was another crime and she was the mastermind behind it, saying here's when we're gonna do it, here's where we're gonna do it, here's how we're gonna do it, and if someone's chickening out on her team during the heist, saying get back in there and do it, well, then she would go to jail. She would be culpable for that. Now, in Massachusetts, where this happened, one of the suggestions given by someone who said, so some legal experts took a look at this and said they thought that it was going to be overturned on appeal. So she won't go to jail until the appeals process is done. And some legal experts have said that it'll get overturned. And the best hope for making sure that stuff like this doesn't happen in the future is to put forward a law that criminalizes coerced suicide. So that's the other approach to it. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think that's actually a very smart idea because, I mean, if you don't have that type of law, well then, and by the way, the law needs to be written in a very specific, detailed way, right? Because you need to define what the coercion means. It can't just be like some arbitrary thing. And so having a law would make it easier to rule in these cases. If you don't, I mean, yeah, because again, the person who takes his or her own life, that's the person who's responsible for committing suicide. But this was a unique case considering that body of evidence where she did really pressure him to go through with it. So anyway.
The thing that bothered me the most was the language that her father used when he made a statement for the judge, and he said that she would be better for it, and that I'm a mom. So I think that really bothered me to hear somebody say that someone else's death, that because of that, what she did, that she would be better for it. I think, you know, it was just, it's just,
right.
It's weird.
And we have, on Pop Trigger, we have like a lot of younger fans, and just, I totally get the temptation to do weird stuff for attention. It's a temptation you can't deny. But this kind of thing, it could enter your mind, whatever, but don't do it, it's not worth it. Any kind of, you know, attempted suicide for attention, any way to coerce someone in a grand plan to take their own lives. It's one of those things that I'm sure when you're 17 that to me, as an older, I'm 35, like to me that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And just have faith that like time will pass, go through it, do something productive.
Just help someone who's in need. Help someone. If they're saying that they're considering suicide or that they're depressed, be a friend, be a good girlfriend.
Good person.
You know, be a good person. Just help that person out. Have some empathy.
And when I tell you as a mom, like one thing that the doctors always tell me is that their cerebral cortex is not fully developed until you're 25. So that a lot of people don't have accountability. They don't have a big sense of accountability. But what I will tell you is that you're not gonna be 17, 18 forever. And that's something you gotta live with. And to know that someone, at some point your consciousness will catch up with you if you are a normal human. And just to have somebody's blood on your hands like that for the rest of your life, it's gotta be awful.
Yeah, and one other little aspect of this decision in the sentencing that I thought was very important is that the judge says that after this is all said and done, she is not to profit in any way from the sale of movie rights,
that's awesome.
book rights, or anything like that. So I think that's something that, I don't know if it's in a lot of court cases, but it's important that it's part of it.
Absolutely.